Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine, and today we are welcomed with Septico. How we doing, man?
¿Qué onda, mi raza? Aquí estamos bien. All good, man. Justin, thank you for having me. I'm excited for this interview, man. Let's get it.
Of course, of course. Before we dive into questions, your wrestling career, why you might be a fan of professional wrestling, all that good stuff, would you like to shout out your social medias and things like that, just to let the fans know where they can find you and stay up to date?
On Instagram, you can find me as Septico_official. And then for my Facebook, you can find me as Septico Luchador.
Okay, easy, simple, like it.
Thank you.
Um, I always start at the same place with all these podcasts. My first question is going to be, when did you find professional wrestling and what about it made you fall in love?
Man, since I can remember, I could remember me and my brother, play wrestling, I've always liked it, probably I'd say since I was 7, watching WWE, seeing Rey Mysterio on TV, that was, something that to this day I still like watching, And well, I'd say I started doing wrestling, or I found wrestling more interesting back when Lucha Underground was a thing. Watching
Okay.
Pentagon, watching Phoenix, watching all the luchas, come in and just doing all that. That was awesome, man. So definitely from there.
Okay. Do you remember your first like live experience going to a show?
Mm, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I was definitely young. I think I was probably like 5. I went with my dad to it was a theater in Chicago, and they had luchas there. I remember seeing LA Park was there. I remember getting a picture with him and buying one of his 8x10s, having
Yep.
it autographed and all. That was an amazing experience.
That's amazing. So growing up, was you like always just attracted to the luchadors, or was you interested in other individuals as well?
Uh, well, growing up, it was watching WWE on the TV. So it was who was there at the time? It was Alberto Del Rio, Rey Mysterio, and Sin Cara. Those were
Mhm.
the three that stuck out to me the most. Probably because they were Mexican. It's just something about seeing another Mexican succeed that just it's something amazing to me. But from outside of WWE, I couldn't think of any out of the top of my head.
Okay. So, something as far as luchadors, always like that fascinates me is like I'm a big mask guy.
Uh-huh.
And masks are obviously a big tradition inside of Lucha Libre. Um, and each mask has its own design, its own meaning. Where did you get the idea and the concept behind your mask?
Well, I had to say I took so much inspiration from Phoenix. Watching
Okay.
Phoenix, it's just something about like the way that he executes his moves. It's like the crispiness, the smoothness, I definitely took some inspiration from him. From Rey Mysterio too, because of the whole ego thing, like just it's just nice because it goes with like the gimmick, it goes with the high flying, it goes with the moves, stuff like that.
Did you design your own mask, or do
Yeah,
you
I
like
designed my own,
out?
man.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you actually start getting into training and say, "Hey, I'm actually going to do this"?
Training wise, I'd say I think this was before COVID actually.
Okay.
I was like 10 years old in 6th grade. We had found out about Galley wrestling through one of their shows. I think the first show that I ever went to Galley was Underground versus Galley. And then we got in touch with one of the with Atomico. He was one of the professors from there. And well, we got in contact with him. And then ever since I stepped into the ring, it was just something that I fell in love with. Something like I feel like I could really express myself while I'm in the ring. And so I think it was by the time I was 10, I started training. Then I took a little break. I came back when after the whole quarantine happened. I think I was 12 when that happened. And then I've been training ever since then. 5 years now training. Wrestling has been 4. It's just an amazing experience.
So how long, after you came back and started training, after the pandemic, did you actually get to make your debut?
I think it was probably a year or close to a year
Okay.
because it was probably I think 2020, December of 2020 when I started training, and then probably I'd say I debuted like I think my debut was September 4th of 2001. Oh, I mean 2021. My bad. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. Um, and how did you feel going into that match? And then what was kind of your mindset coming out of that match?
Well, I took it as a learning experience, because I feel like this whole journey that I've taken has been a learning experience, learning from everybody. But coming into my debut match, I was so nervous, man. I was nervous. I couldn't get like, the nerves out of me. But
Okay.
but what's it called? After the match, I really like I said, learning experience, just taking in from what everybody did, taking a little bit from someone else, you know.
Is it challenging to be probably the youngest or one of the youngest guys inside of training or even at shows wrestling?
I feel I feel like being youngest is probably I feel like it's an advantage for me
Okay.
because I have like all the energy in the world, I'm young. So like I use that to my advantage, like I like to doing this and that, like I like going crazy. But I feel like the only disadvantage that I have is probably my size because I'm not the tallest guy in the world. I'm not the biggest either, I'm a little guy, but slowly getting there.
What's it like for you trying to learn and establish your own style within, the lucha libre culture or the wrestling culture? Like what's that like for you?
It's I mean, it's a little difficult, because it's taking lucha and then taking wrestling and trying to combine both of them. But honestly, like thanks to my coaches, thanks to Joey Marks, thanks to Mason Conrad, like they really helped me in getting that like how do I say it? And getting that full exposure,
Yeah.
like on some nitpicky stuff, like they help me out. Like if I mess up here, they tell me like, oh, maybe do this, maybe do that, maybe change this up, So I like to credit like my coaches, like I said, Mason and Joey. Thank you guys so much for everything.
What's it been like, learning under their tutelage? Like what's that experience been like for you?
It's been an amazing experience, man. Because like they love what they do, and like you could tell like by their work, and like that's something that I like to surround my people with like I like to surround myself with people that have the same interest as me, because that way I
Hmm.
feel like they help me succeed, and then maybe I could show them a little bit.
Definitely. What what was it like for you to be able to get in the ring with them and yourself and Magico take on the Los OGs?
Well, at first it was really difficult, because we didn't have their style of wrestling. We had lucha, but little by little we got adapting, or we started adapting to their style, and so I feel like that really helped us out a lot, and especially in getting the championships off them. So it's definitely been a good experience, especially with my boy Magico.
How did the team or the tandem between yourself and Magico come together?
Man, honestly, that's a good question. It just came out, like we train together, we know each other like really good. So it just clicked. Like we're still learning little by little, but like my boy Mexico, I love that guy to that too. You know, thanks to him, we're still defending the title, so it's been good.
He's somebody that has a very similar story to yours. He started very young.
Mhm.
He's climbed the ranks. Do you think that helps the kind of chemistry that you guys have, since how you've gone through similar situations?
Definitely,
He's obviously
definitely,
a little bit further along, but same similar stories. Do you think that helps you guys?
definitely. I also look at it like when I train with them, or when I train with everybody that I train with, I look at it like it's a good thing because I try pushing myself because I see they're doing a bunch of cool shit, a bunch of cool stuff, and like it pushes myself, like it motivates me to try to be better with my work.
Definitely. You brought up winning the tag team titles. What's that like for you being 17? Yeah, I gotta assume Galley's the home promotion for you to be able to
Definitely.
win tag gold. at there against your coaches, guys that you look up to. What was that experience like?
Well, it was really, how do I say it? It was something that I didn't expect, you know. I didn't think we were gonna win because obviously the OGs they have like 17 years of experience compared to my 4 or 5 years of experience. But I mean, I'd say it was just the hard work, you know, the putting in the hours and training and all that really helped us out, you know.
Definitely. And something that I find very interesting about Galley in its own is I've been to a couple Galley shows, not in a while. I should probably go to one more recently, but um, is the vibe in the arena, the atmosphere. It's completely different, even to other lucha libre companies, but definitely different compared to anything else in Chicago. Do you
Mhm.
think that helps? Like, what about that? I guess helps make it stand out. You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, the crowd definitely plays a big role in it, you know, hearing the crowd cheer, you know, when you do something cool, it just makes you want to do more cool stuff, you know, keep going. So definitely the crowd is a big role in what we do, you know.
Definitely. Um, how do you like respond whenever you know? Obviously, when you work at galley, you're used to a certain crowd experience, and then you go somewhere else. Does it ever throw you off having them not in that same like capacity or headspace?
It doesn't throw me off. If anything, I look at it as like a challenge, you know, trying to see what works with the crowd, what works with the people. And it's just all about building my craft, you know. At the end of the
Definitely.
day, I work on trying to getting better with the crowd work, with my moves, with everything that I do.
You know, who are some of the guys or girls, I should say, that you study um, to try to hone your craft?
Mm, I start off with Chris Benoit, the intensity that he has, you know, it literally looks like they're beating the shit out of each other in their match. So definitely Chris Benoit. I'd say Rey Mysterio and Phoenix are definitely they're high flying. Who else is a good high flyer? Ricochet. All the stuff that he does is all crisp, you know. So definitely those guys. Definitely those guys.
Okay. Galley has a knack for bringing in some of the top lucha libre stars from all over the world. Who are some of the guys that you've been able to maybe pick their brain, talk to, maybe get a little advice from when they've made their way through?
Mm, I say Arrow Boy was a big help, you know. I remember I had one match. I think it was Taco Fest. This was a while ago. This is when I was first starting, but he really helped me out in trying or in showing me to like be more myself in the ring, be more animated, do or getting more with the crowd, you know. So definitely, Arrow Boy has been a big help too.
Okay. Um, I forget who I was talking to. It might have been Joey, but
Mhm.
but Joey said, once upon a time in Galley, those guys would like when they'd bring in some of them stars from Mexico or the other likes of Lucha Libre, the guys that they'd bring in maybe wasn't too cooperative
Mhm.
with the other guys at Galley. Nowadays, that's changed. Have you experienced any of that? Just in general, working with some of the older guys,
Not
veterans.
working, but definitely like being in the same locker room, you know, you could definitely tell. You know, there has been some instances where people come in and they don't pay attention to you. You know, we're just chilling, you know, with me and the people from Galley that we know. We'll be just sitting in the corner and they'll be over there. But you know, with me it's no problem. You know, I don't see why that should affect us and why we should complain about it. If anything, I feel like we should just move on, leave it behind. You know, don't pay any mind to it, and just focus
Definitely,
on what's yours. You know, on what's your work.
100%. Being 17 in this sport, you got a long career ahead of you. And realistically, like things really start to shift once you hit 18. Like that's whenever you're able to get signed, things of that
Mhm.
nature. Are those things you're paying attention to coming up? I,
That's the goal. That's the goal. I haven't really been able to work in a lot of companies, probably because of my age. You know, but definitely, I definitely want to start getting my name out there. Definitely want to start traveling more, getting that exposure. because I feel like that's what you need in today's wrestling world is that exposure. That's what gets you out there, you know?
What are some of the companies maybe in the Chicago area that you're looking to work at whenever you become that age?
Mm, I say freelance is definitely one. I've
Okay.
seen Torero, you know, he's been on those. So
Yep.
definitely freelance would be one. Uh maybe hmm man. There's so many out there, but honestly, from Independence, Hog, or what's that one? Is it Hog?
House of Glory.
Yeah, House of Glory?
Yep.
Definitely House of Glory too.
You know, and something else that I assume you're paying attention to is like WWE just started the ID program.
Mhm.
And WWE also has just really lately started bringing in the Lucha Libre and Luchadors into WWE. So like, is that something that you're paying attention to? You know,
Obviously, man. Yes. WWE, I feel like that's the best company that you could be in. So honestly, it's just I want to take the journey slow and just go with the flow, and then hopefully in the future we get some good deals, you know.
definitely. How did you feel about the news when you found out that AAA was acquired by WWE? Did that come as a surprise?
That was shocking. I remember I think I was at a match that day, but it was shocking to find out that WWE bought out AAA. But that's crazy, and I feel like it helps Lucha Libre to what's the word, evolutionize it.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a good thing that Lucha Libre, or yeah, that's something good for Lucha Libre, you know.
definitely. Um, Galley has done work with CMLL.
Mhm.
Do you think that's something that could continue and maybe lead to you being able to make a trip down to Mexico and maybe do some stuff for CMLL?
Mm, I don't think so. Never say never, you know. I feel like anything is possible, and then, well, if Gali one day decides to send me to Mexico, I would be more than happy to, you know.
Definitely, definitely. Who was some of the guys down there that you would be if you like had a dream match for Arena Mexico? What would that be?
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Uh, from Arena Mexico, I feel like Volador Jr. He's a really good wrestler. You know, he has the high flying, the chain wrestling, has everything. Everything that a luchador has, he has it. You know. So
Okay.
definitely Volador would be a dream match. Mm, maybe Místico, that too. Remember watching him on WWE when he was Sin Cara, so maybe him too, yeah.
Okay. Um, you know, I recently ran into Kalisto or
Mhm.
Samurai Del Sol at a CSW event. I know he was trained with Galley. Um, is that somebody you've ever had an experience with or a conversation with or been able to talk to at all?
Uh, no, actually no. I've
No?
never really met Kalisto in person, but I would definitely be excited to. I feel like it would be an amazing experience.
Definitely, definitely. Um, yeah, I'm gonna jump back a little bit. We was talking about your tag team with Magico, the you guys being tag team champions. What do you guys feel like you have in store for us, or what can we expect as fans with your title reign?
Man, well, we want to take over. That's simple as that. We want to take over. We want to do what nobody in Gali has done. That's our goal. We want to do what nobody has seen. We want to have the best matches that we can ever have. We just want to bring that attention to Gali. You
Okay.
know,
What's been your favorite match so far with you and Magico tag team?
my favorite match, I would have to say one of the cage match with the OGs. That was fun. But besides that one, I would have to say. This was when was this? I think this was Galiversario. We had a match. It was me, Magico, and Electric versus Axel Rico. Hans Carden and Eric Schultz. I feel like that match was super fun. So I feel like those matches are my favorites.
Definitely. Um, you know, just speaking of Axel Rico is one of my absolute favorite people in this industry.
Mhm.
Um, Somebody I've had the pleasure to have on the podcast. What's your experience been like working with Axel? And I like, if any advice he's given you, does any of it stick out? I'm trying to say.
Mm, working with Axel, working with Axel is really fun. I've had a few matches with him, but advice that he has told me, mm, I'd say to just be more animated, especially with the mask. People can't see your face, so the facial expressions, using your eyes, using your mouth to like show the people what you're feeling and all that. Definitely.
Hmm. Okay. Um, you know, Hans Carden is somebody else that I find, for one, absolutely hilarious.
Mhm.
For two, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
What's your experience been like working with Hans?
Hans, that's my guy, man. We're cool. I fuck with Hans too. Hans is really funny. Hans, if you're watching this, what's up, man?
You got any good Hans stories?
Hans stories? No, I don't think so. I know one time, or actually in the match that I just mentioned to you with me and Electric, he tried giving me a leg drop. Oof, landed right on my face with his ass. Hurt.
So he missed the leg
He
and it
missed.
just
He missed, man.
sat
We
on
need to
your
work
face.
on that, man.
That's hilarious. I don't know, something about Hans is like he's one of those guys that he's gonna make it somewhere, some way, somehow, probably just off of his comedic gold. But Hans, if I ever get the chance to bring him up, I try my best because he's just one of those guys that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Another question I try to ask here on the podcast is, we're about halfway through 2025. What are some of the goals you'd like to achieve before the end of the year?
I say, like back to what I said, just getting my name out there, getting the exposure. Me and Magico actually have a few dates coming up in Minnesota for Fresh Wrestling. So I'm
Okay.
really excited. I'm looking forward for those. Uh, Same with the galley shows. I'm looking forward for those. And then honestly, just any company that's willing to work with me, I look forward to it.
Definitely. Septico, I just want to say thank you, man. This was an absolute blast.
Thank you, man. Thank you for
Um,
having me.
Before I let you go, you want to shout out your social medias just one more time, just to let the fans know where they can find you again.
Instagram, Septico_official, and Facebook, Septico Luchador.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Um, I do this quite often, but if you ever want to come back on for
Definitely,
part
man.
two,
Definitely.
maybe a follow up, I'd love to have you on.
Thank you.
Just let me know.
For sure, man. Thank you.
Of course, I will leave this at see you next time.
Nos vemos. Salud.